All right, here we go. Overdrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How we feeling? A beautiful Monday here in Toronto. Wow. Nice and sunny outside. It's amazing.
I need to hear this.
I'd like to be there to shake your hands because you know what today starts. It's a very short season, but a season we all know well. It is the first day of Windows Up Darts. So have a good Windows Up Darts season. I saw 3 alone today and 2 other people in the car. It's disgusting, and I don't know how these guys with these mustaches are getting away with this behavior, but I saw 3 on the way to get my hair cut.
It's amazing you say that because I was not aware.
You saw one too.
I was not aware this was International Windows Up Dart Day.
That's a T-shirt.
That
Honestly,
should be it.
We are starting hashtag Windows Up Dart Day.
International.
Someone make us a logo, please.
International Windows Up Dart Day.
With a mustache.
Yeah, anything.
It's January 15th.
It's got to be in cartoon figure or form, and it's got, or I don't know. Get creative because I want a logo. I want a hoodie made to acknowledge this great day.
I love it. Because I went out over the weekend. It was a pit stop. I had to run into a hardware stop. I was getting salt. I was going to get salt for the driveways and the walkways and stuff. And there was a couple each having a Windows Up Dart parked in the parking lot before they went in to run their errands. And I'm like, that
tough getting back in
it was really committed because they were both, it was a true partnership. I mean, they were both, it was basically Snoop Dogg's tour bus.
Can you imagine?
They were just enjoying themselves.
Say you went to visit their house. Like you walk in, that'll be a punch in the face.
Yeah.
It's trapped in the walls. And
generally speaking. Sometimes it's in the garage. Like sometimes the garage with the door open.
No,
and you get a sliver in the winter. The door, the garage door is open like 6 inches in the winter because it's so cold.
I got a bit of house cleaning to clear up, fellas, before we get into everything.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, no show. My machine's all gone. And I wrote his name down. Rupinder from Bell came over and he said, all new equipment. You need all new equipment, modem, box for Wi-Fi. So I had to take one for the team on Friday.
Yeah, all good.
And I'm not just pumping the service up because we work for Bell. The guy was there the next day, all new machine, so I'm good to go.
Phenomenal. We love it. Shout out. That is outstanding. We're all here. We're all happy.
Exactly. Our guy.
As you should. Yes, we've established a new international day. I think we have the power to do that.
What is it again? Windows Up Dart Day?
International Windows Up Dart Day.
Yeah.
January 15th every year.
And we need a picture with the guy.
It runs to March 1st. It's a short season, but it's an aggressive season.
Yeah, it's a sprint. It's not a marathon. But yeah, it's great to be in here. We got football all afternoon and all night. Like the pictures, Dave Naylor is on the scene.
What's going on down there? It feels like he's on
he's gone National Geographic on this football game.
Honestly, he's on the safari that is Western New York. It's like this guy's taking shots of like, this is a rare spotting of a, it's like, okay, we get it. That's a Bills fan trying to get into the stadium. But I can't get enough of Naylor's content.
Yeah.
You got to follow him on
this
Twitter.
Before in a concourse? I don't think so.
It's wild. They're digging out snow, and the belief is, like, I haven't seen his most updated stuff because kickoff is in like half an hour.
Right.
Is that they have the concourses are basically open, and you can get into the stadium, and the field is cleared, so they're going to play football, but the seats are covered in snow.
So people are just going to kind of generally go into that area?
I guess
there was a family kicking their way into the aisle, in like their whole aisle.
It's amazing.
How anyone, look at this guy. Come on, kids.
Those are Steeler fans.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the best part. They could have stayed in Pittsburgh. They probably are from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That kid's missing school today, and they're like, yeah, we're going to stick around. We'll find a way. It's a pilgrimage just to get to your seat. It's a grind to get to your seat.
It's crazy
at that football stadium.
And we all got trapped. Like I was traveling on the weekend. Like there was obviously a lot of snow kicking around and all of that. I can't believe how hard some of these cities or some locations got hit. Because if you go half an hour one way or the other, you're flying in and out. Like the Red Wings, I was shocked that the Red Wings just arrived to the game just before the game.
2 hours before the game,
I didn't
they
realize
land.
how hard it was hit. Like, I understood Buffalo, and I get it. But even listening to Marty Biron talk, he said, you go half an hour or another way, like, barely any snow.
Well, that's the reports out of Buffalo. Is I saw like one meteorologist or one reporter who was getting carved by people because he was downtown Buffalo. And he was saying, this isn't so bad. Why aren't we playing?
Right.
And then the reporter who was out in Orchard Park is like, idiot, I'm out here. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's literally like O's theory that if you go to Barrie, it's a different country.
I lived it this weekend. I was in Collingwood and got absolutely crushed with snow. I drove home to my house in Toronto. I can cut my grass tomorrow. It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
It is weather patterns because even Buffalo, like it's right there, man. It's not far away.
That's what I mean. It's not that far away, and I'm watching. Same thing. I'm following Naylor. I'm like, where is he?
Yeah.
At the North Pole. Like it looked like he was at the North Pole.
It feels that way.
Crazy.
So you got the Bills and Steelers, and I guess the reason they could move it to tomorrow, partially because of the logistics of it all. You got to play another game next weekend.
Right,
Technically, you could move the Bills game next week to probably the Monday nighter if need be.
Right.
But I guess there's another storm hitting tomorrow in Western New York, and that's what they're anticipating. So they're like, we have a window here where we got to get a ball game in and get people out.
Get the hell out of there.
And the line has not moved at all. It's still a 10-point spread. The Bills are favored.
Had to throw that line in there, huh?
I wanted that on the record because we got two losers, regular season mentalities on the group chat who want to redo their pick.
The point is, we made our selection on the game being played in real foul weather.
Mm-hmm.
Now the sun is shining and the field would be clear. Let's clarify that.
Well,
if you want to get into the gritty details, that is why we made our selection on a bad weather game. Now the sun is shining and there's no wind.
So,
I understand
let me ask you this. Would you guys change your selection? That was I feel bad.
I'd have to
because
talk to my partners.
That's what they wanted.
I might have started that little debate in the group text. I was driving and I just threw in there like, do it over again, or what would you guys do? And then the argument started. There was some language in there too.
Yeah.
Like
everyone's taking shrapnel. Doogie's taking hits, which I don't appreciate.
Apparently, Doogie's
a man of integrity in the playoffs, right? He's very compromised during the regular season, but I think he's a man of integrity in the playoffs. And my partner's taking a crushing all weekend because he had the audacity to bet on the Dolphins. And
guys,
I got to own that too.
We got to come clean. It will never ever. It's the King Daddy Topper, the worst selection ever. Guys from Miami going into the polar vortex.
Yeah,
they're playing a football game in a polar vortex, and your Partsy took the Miami Dolphins. I don't care if Dan Marino in his prime was the court. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen on live television.
I got to own it, right? I'm the president of
Dude, that's what happens.
Here.
He tricked you into it, too.
Well, he was very adamant about it, but here's what I found fascinating about that game, and I'm curious to see what comes out of this afternoon with the McDermott and Tomlin Steelers versus Bills, because it's still very cold, right? It's not a blizzard, but it's going to be very cold down there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really can break it down in pro sports, especially a physical sport, the nature of football, to meat and potatoes. What does your leader look like versus what my leader looks like? Andy Reid was out there Saturday night. No toque, no gloves. His mustache.
Snot in his mustache was frozen.
He had a frozen mustache.
Of snot.
Of everything.
It was all his snot coming out of his nose, frozen.
And he's parading up and down, laughing with the boys. Mike McDaniel looked like he wanted to literally be wrapped in saran wrap and shipped back to South Beach.
Dude, and that's
he looked so uncomfortable.
If your coach is looking like that, everyone else is like, how bad do I really want to play in this condition?
I'm sorry. You need to look at your coach and say, that guy's here for the grind. Because McDaniel all week said, who cares about the elements? We got to be tougher than that. I took one look at that guy and said, they're going to get crushed.
Yeah.
No,
look
it's not
at
that,
Andy Reid.
Hayes. It's not that, Hayes. It's the idea of going to, or how do I want to phrase this? It's when you're looking at Andy Reid, you're like, well, I guess I got no excuse to complain about this weather. But when you're on the other side, you're looking at it, I'm like, maybe I can mail it in, and this coach will say, screw it. Who the hell wants to play football in that weather anyway?
He looked, Mike McDaniel, like he was running out of the stadium for hot chocolate and heaters.
Yeah, he would have been trying to act like the tough guy, but in the coach's office, he's got heaters,
freezing.
hot pockets, everything. Andy Reid, there were pictures of him like...
A frozen mustache is wild,
Of
man.
snot.
It's a wild
It's not
look.
mustache, but he's my favorite. Like, I love Belichick and I love him. And
Old school.
Just different old school, but he could not care less. It wasn't a fashion show for him, anything. He's trying to win, and he
His
coached to
upper
win.
lip looked like if anyone's ever seen a golden retriever that's just been in the snow all day and they come in and you got to peel the pieces of ice off their fur. That's what his mustache looked like.
It was ridiculous.
wild,
the pictures
man.
that were
Look at this
Look
guy.
at that guy. Like that
He
guy.
has frozen snot all over his
What
mouth.
I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the one ear exposed for 4 hours. He's got no gloves on either. Like, someone from the training staff must have gone up to him and said, "Andy, I'm imploring you, please. Do you want a Chiefs toque? How about some mitts?" And he just probably said, "Get out of here! I'm not doing
Like the
anything."
team doctor had to at least once said, "We're going to have to amputate that ear after the game," and he said, "I don't care."
I don't care, man. We're winning this ball game.
That's
That is
it.
that
And-
is the face of grit right
Yes.
there. Like that's
right.
a T-shirt, the frozen mustache.
That's exactly what it is.
It's ridiculous.
It was,
I loved
man.
it.
It was, and what a weekend it was. We got more games tonight. Luke's coming up in 20. Everyone's talking about the Cowboys today, and I understand we'll get into that, but can we get some love for Green Bay as well? It's not like the Packers just went in there
That's true.
and won 10-0.
Your Pack.
They destroyed that,
was
team. I love
It
that.
was an absolute ass kicking. That's what it was.
It was the most embarrassing defensive performance from a top 5 defense at home, 2 seed versus a 7 seed I've ever seen in my life. I could not believe how good Jordan Love looked, how smart Matt LaFleur looked, how fresh Aaron Jones looked. He spread the ball out. The offensive line dominated. The Cowboys were a joke.
Hayes, I don't know about
afternoon.
you, but I thought this is just from me being a sports guy. I'm not breaking down football tape, but I thought a pivotal moment in that game is when CeeDee Lamb started bitching and complaining that he was not getting the ball, and that idiot Dak Prescott gave in and said, "Okay, I got to get you the ball to make you happy." And Dak's as dumb as CeeDee Lamb, and sure as hell, the next play was a pick six, and it was game over. And I'm like, how could you possibly be that selfish for Lamb and stupid for Prescott to just give in to that? That was an insane couple of minutes of that game.
It's a great point because they showed McCarthy going over there and talking to CeeDee Lamb. They
Yeah,
showed
it's
Dak
like, what is
going
this,
over.
about a win, or is it about you getting touches
gotta
and
get
not
us
being
touches and
involved?
that.
And to put that into perspective, on the other side, Jaden Reed led the Packers in receptions this year, in touchdowns, in yards. He didn't get a touch, not one yesterday. Christian Watson is their first round stud. The guy, I think they might have taken him in the second round, but he was coming into the season. That's your number one receiver in Green Bay.
Right.
He got 1 reception for 9 yards. It was Dobbs was great, Musgrave was great, Kraft was great. They just spread the ball
Spread
out.
it around,
And it was like, whoever gets it, and we're going to take it to the house, and we're going to win the ball game. And in Dallas, you're right. It was like, well, CeeDee Lamb's an all-pro, and he's been great, and he's not happy, and I better force
And I
something
think it
in.
was like 14-0 at that point, where the game was not out of reach at that particular
no, not even
point of the game.
close.
And he started bitching, and I'm like, this guy's demanding the football right now. And Dak Prescott's like, okay, fine. And it's like Green Bay's like, here it comes. And it was a pick six, and that was it.
Yep. See you later. That made it 27-0, and they go to the half 27-7, but the rest was history.
It was over.
That was crazy. So Luke's coming up. I got to give a shout out to Dan Campbell. I got to own that one. That's an incredible
Man, oh,
story. Unbelievable. The Lions winning a playoff game. I
That was
never
a good
thought I'd
game,
see
though.
the day.
That was a good game last night.
Unbelievable football
That
game.
was a serious game.
Tough game,
Yeah.
too. Both teams going to war last night. So we'll get into that with Luke in about 15 minutes. You talk about polar vortex. The Leafs are probably landing in Edmonton right now. And
I just talked to my mom. She goes, we got a heat wave. It's minus 27. So it was minus 41 the other day.
Yeah,
Minus 50
I was
with
there
the wind
for the
chill.
juniors, and it was 43 under par.
wow.
Yeah.
And there were people at the hotel we were staying at for the juniors that were going outside for a dart, and 2 drags flick inside. Couldn't do it. I've never seen anything like that. But they don't need to worry about the weather. They gotta dig out the hole they're creating for themselves on the ice.
That's what the reality is. They put themselves in a bad spot now. They're still on pace for 100 points in the playoffs, and I still believe they're going to make the playoffs. I believe they'll get there, but they've made their lives difficult now.
More difficult.
Where you're closer to the middle of the pack. You handed 2 points to Detroit. Tampa's still there. We're waiting for Jersey to possibly come on. Pittsburgh could come on. And you're closer to that group than you are the Rangers and the Bruins and the Panthers. Like, that's where they've played themselves into it because they've been inconsistent through 41 games. They can't close games. They get leads and they find a way to blow it. Defensively, they're not great. The PK's not great. They've been riding a third-string goalie who's been great. I'm not taking anything away from Jones, but you need some depth at the goaltending position. You're going to need to play other guys, and at some point, Jones is probably going to hit a wall for a little bit, and we might be in that spot, right? Like, we might be in there. He gave up 4 against the Island. He gave 4 against Colorado. He might be kind of hitting a bit of a wall, and you need other guys to step up here.
Well, they just got to stop doing stupid things and help out their goaltender. Like some of the plays they're making. There was a play on Saturday night, might have been one of the dumber plays I've ever seen in the National Hockey League, when TJ Brody decided to lift his skate up and let the guy just
on the 5.
I've never seen that before.
That was on a delayed penalty.
Was it not?
Dude, I don't care what it was.
I know. I'm with you.
The reason for him not touching the puck, I can't think of one that would have been on the positive. And it was just a bizarre play. So that's one goofy one. Matthews had just a cross-ice pizza picked off on the Rantanen goal. Liljegren tried to go D to D behind the net to a Detroit Red Wing the other night. It was just silly. They're just doing stupid things. And I'm just going to say this for the 7 millionth time. It's like people talk about the reasoning for them, like the ability not to close and giving up leads all the time. When you don't play with like that gridded out physicality type where you can kind of choke the will out of a team, sometimes they just crawl back in it because they're continuing to flow. You're not making body contact. You're not punishing them. And you're always letting them keep moving. And there's nothing to deter them from like getting good chances, getting chances on the rush. And if you play like that, you're just that's what's going to happen to the results. I don't know what you think.
It was a sluggish start too for the Leafs. They had it on a tee for themselves. Detroit had just landed 2 hours before. They should have been pissed off that they gave up a 3-0 lead from the night before. Even Sheldon said before the game, "We're not happy. We're an owly group," or whatever, their morning meetings. So all I kept thinking is like Detroit's going to be back on their heels the first 10 minutes. The Leafs should be up 3-0. Like that's in my mind. I was like, that's what's going to happen. James Reimer's only finished like 2 games out of the 9 that he's played against the Leafs. I thought he was really good when he needed to be, but it wasn't like they had a wave and a wave of chances. They had a couple good ones. But I thought the Leafs would just blow their doors off in the first period, pissed off from the night before. And it was exactly the opposite. I thought Samsonov made some really good saves.
Right.
And shot, I think, 10-5 in the first period.
I think the biggest indictment on where this team is at and their DNA and the naysayers, finding more ammo. There were two things that stood out to me over the weekend. The first period last night, where there's no excuse for it. There's no travel. You're at home. Detroit's been at the airport all day.
Right.
Detroit's not a great team. They're a good team, but they're not like a world-beating team that's coming in on a heater at this point. They played the night before.
Yeah.
You're pissed because you blew a 3-0 lead the night before. And I don't want to hear anything about the officiating Saturday night. If you're up 3-0 at home, I don't care who you're playing, you have to win that game.
You do.
You have to win that game. And they didn't. Not only did they not, they lost in regulation. They couldn't even get into overtime. That's even worse. Especially considering what happened on Thursday, where they're up 3-1 against the Islanders, and they let that slip away from them.
And by the way, when you're 6'4" and 230 pounds, take a peek out your eye. Once you see the ref's arms up, just get up and do whatever you got to do. They're not getting the call. It's not happening.
What are you talking about on the Saturday night, Matthews?
The Matthews cross-check. Everyone's complaining about it. It's like you didn't get the call, so get up and get moving.
Well, that's the other one for me. The first period against Detroit last night and Matthews getting buried by Manson, which should have been called.
Yeah,
it was a blatant cross-check. It was a blatant one.
But it didn't.
It didn't get called. But I have a bigger issue with absolutely no response again on that. Like that to me is even more egregious than Marchand on Liljegren earlier in the year. Liljegren got injured. Matthews didn't, but Matthews is Matthews.
Right.
Like Manson buries him, and the whole team's like, we're just going to let it go, and we'll see what happens. And even Austin wasn't even pissed. He just, he was injured a little bit, but he didn't miss a shift.
Or whatever it was.
He was out there the next shift.
Let's pull Austin out of that, because if he wanted the call and whatever, if he gets up and chases into it, then maybe that's a situation. But he did look like he felt that.
He got buried.
He got buried.
That was a big crush.
So Marner, obviously, Marner's not going to do anything, but you could slash the guy. You can do something. Who else? Gregor was out there. Brody. I'm trying to remember who the other guys were. Usually, that's a scrum.
Yes.
Best player, like I guarantee you.
Gets buried and is down on the ice.
David gets buried anytime. Doesn't matter what happens. Accident, non-accident, that's, for me. Draisaitl got chopped across the wrist by Pietrangelo in the playoffs. Who was the first guy there? McDavid.
Right.
Went right after Pietrangelo.
That's in the playoffs. Again,
Yeah.
I know the responsibility. Well, it's 3-3 and you want it. Who cares? It's a game in January.
It just, my thing is that sends a message throughout the league again.
Bury 'em.
That, this team, they struggle for consistently standing up for each other.
Stop asking for it. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly.
It's not what they're going to do, so let's just stop
it.
pissing and moaning about it because...
But it's a problem until it's addressed, though. I can't buy into the program. And that's why today I look at it, and Leaf fans are all over the map in terms of what they want to see. No one's really happy right now. I think you got to have some perspective. They're still in a playoff spot. They're on pace for 100 points. They still have a lot of talent.
Frankie brought up a good point today. There's a bunch of good teams that are not playing well right now, and the Leafs are one of them. It's not the sky is falling, but you better figure your life out pretty soon.
Right, but here's the difference. One of those teams is Vegas. They literally won the Stanley Cup last year. Right, and they've proven who they are and what they are, right? Another team is obviously L.A. L.A.'s in big trouble. I guarantee you they're nervous in L.A. They should be, right? Just because it's not loud because it's L.A. doesn't mean the management and the coaching staff isn't saying, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
They are nervous and they should be. That's not a good scene out there in L.A. What I'm saying is, people are clamoring for a coaching change or a trade or whatever. I don't see this team being one move away from unlocking some sort of magic. Right. This isn't move Murray out, bring in Daryl Sutter, boom, it's over. Right. It's I don't even if you were to change the coach, and I think it's possible that could happen. I'm not sure if it will. I think the roster is the bigger issue than the coach personally. But anything's on the table. Anything could happen at this point. But even if you bring in a new coach, it's not going to change those moments.
Right.
And it's not going to change the fact that your second or third most reliable defenseman right now is Benoit.
Right.
Probably
well,
is.
Dude, that's the thing, Hayes. If you want to do one thing to say, let's try to maximize this roster for Sheldon Keefe and the players, you got to go and get 2 quality defensemen. And that's just the flat out truth. TJ Brody, and I brought up his name a lot this year, and it's unfortunately on the negative end of things. He is not even close to being a top pairing guy right now. The way he's playing out there, he should be struggling to get he should be fighting for his life to get into the lineup. And I'm not making that garbage up. That's not an opinion. That's fact. That is fact. The giveaways and the out of position, even the other night against Detroit, Morgan Riley breaks a stick at the opposition blue line. And TJ Brody's his last line of defense. Wouldn't you think that he would bust his ass to get back like it was the most important thing in his life? He was just kind of see, maybe I can get this guy. Maybe I can. It's just, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and I've seen too much of it this year. So go ahead and try to go get 2 quality defensemen and plug them into that lineup and see what they got. And then if they can't get it done, you say, you know what, there's serious issues here. But until you do that, maybe you'll never know.
But here's another issue that I have and something that I'm debating. I don't know the answer to it. But let's say they make a coaching change. I don't know if that's a culture-changing move when you just did what you did with Nylander. You just gave him 11-5 over 8 because he had a great 40 games. So if you're going to make a culture, we got a culture issue, how does that jive? How as an organization, you're looking at this saying, man, we got to change the DNA or we got to change our approach or, man, we got to do this, that, or the other to get to the top of the mountain. But we're going to keep doubling down with the same guys and keep overpaying. And I just don't know if you can have your cake and eat it too if you decide to make something. Decide on a drastic decision here.
Let me ask you both this, because Hayes, you made a good point. You don't think there's a magic bullet where it's one move and that's it. The pieces fall together. So let's remove the emotion and go, where do you start? What's move one? If you had an opportunity to do that today, what's move one? Is it what O's talking about, a trade for a couple defensemen? Is it, because we've talked about several things. The goaltending, you got to sort that out. Samsonov, I think, was good yesterday. And the game-winning goal was a kind of a weird one. I didn't love it, short side. Yeah. But, there's broken plays before that. And what the hell are you doing managing the puck back there? Anyways, so you got to sort out the goaltending. You got to sort out the D. who's the fourth line right now? Like, what is, are you comfortable
Well, they were on
there?
for the winner, was it last night?
I know,
With
but
a
it was
minute
like,
and 50 seconds
Nice
left.
down there. You got Holmberg playing up, which is, weird for me. But,
Yeah.
I just got to sort out some of the whole roster part of that because it's not like you mentioned Vegas. Vegas got injuries. Leafs don't have a ton of guys, out.
Right.
Joseph Wall's out, but they don't have, hey, we're decimated, we got 8 guys out or anything. This is kind of their roster, give or take a couple guys. So you got to sort out what you're going to do. But what's move one? Where do you start?
Well, in the cap era, it's usually the coach.
Right,
if you feel like you have a big problem on your hands, you look at it and you're like, something's seriously missing, doesn't mean it's the right move. It doesn't mean it's a justified move. In the salary cap era, that's what happens. Because I don't think they can be in a position to acquire 2 defensemen right now for the rest of this season if it's going to cost you major assets in the future.
Right.
Because I don't think we always say the team's got to prove it. They got to show who they are. Right now, this team, they've been inconsistent all year.
Yeah.
Their defense is middle of the pack. Their penalty kill's not great. Their goaltending is questionable.
Okay, then you're standing pat. And
but that's what I'm saying.
You're
I know
standing
Leaf
pat.
fans,
You're going into the playoffs and be like, well, we'll see what happens.
honestly, and the opinions are always subject to change. They got a big 2 weeks coming up. Edmonton tomorrow, Calgary Thursday, Vancouver, Seattle, and a home-and-home with Winnipeg. I think we're 2 weeks away from knowing more about this team. Yeah. So I don't think you have to have the answer right now. Yeah. But if in 2 weeks they go 1-5 or 2-4.
Yeah,
it could be. I think it's a very different approach. It could be we got to sit back. Obviously, you'll make a move or two to patch a couple things.
And here's the extreme. Ken Holland didn't do. Ken Holland fired the coach, but outside of that, he didn't do anything.
Go play,
get your
look what's happened for
together,
them.
Right?
And they have.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. The Leafs play like they did yesterday against Edmonton. They'll get crushed tomorrow night. They will get crushed.
I think they'll play better.
I think they'll be much better. They'll get. It'll be emotional. There'll be a ton of Leaf fans there. They play Edmonton well. I think they'll be better, but it was not a good weekend. It was not a good 3 games in 4 nights. Let's call it what it was. All right, Chris Johnston coming up later this afternoon. Nazem Kadri on the show. We got Naz coming up a little bit later this afternoon as well. Luke Willson in studio. What does he make of the Bills Steelers this afternoon? What does he make of the Bucs Eagles tonight? How about with the Cowboys? How good were the Packers? That and more coming up. Luke in studio next.
I tried to explain to him, we made our decisions. We ran our numbers with a bad weather scenario.
Correct. As stated, this is the biggest joke of all time. We picked the game like we normally do, assuming that there was a blizzard, like I said, because the game is going to be played on Sunday, and the governor of New York found out how great we are as a team and jammed us up.
Okay, let me respect.
Hey, I'm just saying, this could be a big moment for you where you could show some stones and take this show to a new level and say,
have some integrity.
Do you want to keep the pick?
No, here's the problem. The game's already started, okay? So we're there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I mean, you know what? No, I put a quarter in you guys. Unfortunately, I should apologize because I put a little nugget into the group chat there just saying you guys should it be a do-over type of thing.
But let me ask a question.
And then there was some language there.
Let me ask a question, okay?
Yes.
Is anyone looking at the weather in Tampa Bay tonight? Do you know what the weather is in Tampa?
I'm not on the game. Why would I care?
Exactly.
Rain.
Thank you. The point being is,
what do you mean?
We picked a Monday nighter last Thursday.
Yeah.
It could be a monsoon there tonight.
No, you should have looked at the weather on Thursday.
Changes, though. The point is, it could change by Thursday. You've been to South Florida. You've been to Florida. It changes over.
That's a completely different scenario. The day doesn't change. The day of the game doesn't change.
No, but the weather pattern does. That's the whole point. You guys aren't talking about it being a Monday. You didn't bet it because you thought they'd win on Sunday and lose on Monday. You're talking weather patterns.
You
I don't know what
proved
the
to be the
at.
man that I thought you were.
Now, I do wonder, and this is just I love great competition. I loved last night's Rams-Lions game because it was a great game.
Great game.
Very minimal mistakes. That was a real football game.
Mm-hmm.
And I want Team Hazenbot to be better. So is Al's brother resigning?
No, he's not.
This is ridiculous.
He's not because, yes.
How is he not resigning?
Listen, we got to own the Dolphins pick is one of the worst picks in the history of this.
Admit it. It's the King Daddy topper.
It's one of them.
And that's why
it's an awful pick.
Al's brother's got to get called to the carpet.
Al's brother, he's in the corner until later in the week.
True or false? He was leaning Cowboys, and you went with the Pack.
No, I think he liked the Packers.
I'm not sure about that.
I think
might have to go to the tape.
No, he didn't.
I don't remember exactly what he said. I wasn't listening to it. I was on Green Bay. I was adamant the Packers would cover. I didn't think they'd win to that extent.
The way he was thanking you in the group chat, I think
he was
like,
happy.
I dodged a bullet.
He was
like,
happy.
I think I dodged a bullet here. Like, great job.
He did. He was sweating bad.
He was really thanking you in the group chat.
He might have. What do you see happening in Dallas? Like everyone's predicting McCarthy out.
Gone.
I think
you called Belichick last night.
And everyone's saying, I think Jerry Jones relinquishes, and it's like, oh, we can't have two, whatever. I think Jerry Jones says, what roles do you want to play? You got him.
I don't believe that for a second.
What is he going to do?
He owns the team. The guy has a press conference 20 minutes after every game.
Okay, so he says, I'm doing the draft, but Hayes, they can't win. The Cowboys are not a team that needs a quote-unquote culture change. This isn't the Lions where you need a Dan Campbell. They don't need a revamped roster. They need a coach and a quarterback or one of the other, someone who can get their current quarterback to win in the playoffs. If they don't win the Super Bowl or at least go to the NFC Championship and lose to San Fran, it's a bust.
I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is I don't believe Jerry Jones is going to stop making player personnel decisions, talking to the media.
Can't help himself.
And Bill Belichick can't live in that world. I don't believe they can coexist. I think Belichick will lose his mind when he comes into a presser and someone goes, Jerry Jones was just on 105.9, the Beast, and he said,
"Get your damn act together."
Yeah, he said he doesn't like your play action call in the second quarter. He will lose.
Damn act together.
He'll lose his mind.
I don't think Jerry does that to Bill, because the power dynamics would be, Bill would be the guy.
Can Dak Prescott win in the playoffs?
I mean,
is he a
not right
playoff
now.
winning quarter? That's
No.
the problem. Is
Parts
that defense was awful. Horrendous defense. But
how ridiculous did you think that scenario was yesterday, where it looked like a petulant CeeDee Lamb was like, I'm not getting the football, and Dak was like, okay, I got to get it to you to make you feel better, and sure as hell the next play was a pick six and it was game over. I thought that was insanity, man.
It was. Oh, no, and what's crazier to me is that, again, I've been in this round. I've been a division winner where we didn't get the bye. And I remember it was actually the Detroit Lions that had come to Seattle. And it's like, when you have a veteran team with great players, you handle your business. For them to be even confused or chatting about, like, this was in the first quarter. You're playing a home playoff game, so crowd noise is not an issue. You're playing against a very pedestrian defense. Jordan Love, incredible. I'll give him all the props he deserves. The defense is okay. It's maybe above average. And you have an all-pro receiver and a second-team all-pro quarterback that aren't on the same page after 18 weeks, after camp, after everything. This is where they're confused. And then we throw a pick six. Even it's 20-0, and I'm sitting there thinking, you got the league's number one offense, like, again, against his defense. You go down here, you score a touchdown, you get the ball at the half, you get some points, and we got a ball game.
Yep.
I kind of knew that the cover would be tough,
At that point.
Yes, but
tough.
At least you think it's a ball game, not an absolute beatdown.
It was 48-16 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like, that is absurd.
Like, what I equated it to, again, the years that we won, we did have the bye, but our bread and butter was the Legion of Boom on defense. And that, to me, again, I wouldn't put the Legion of Boom and CD and Dak in similar categories, but that would be like, okay, we just opened up a playoff game and the Legion of Boom gave up 30 points. Mm-hmm. Like, how does CD Lamb and Dak Prescott, who, again, is the identity of this team, we'll talk about Dak, at the half, his numbers were 87 yards and 2 picks, and the touchdown, which they scored at the end of the half.
On the clock.
He should have threw a pick before that.
Yes.
And they false started, which they missed, which should have been a field goal.
That's right.
So they were one catch away from getting shut out at the half and having 3 interceptions, one of which was a pick six.
Right.
How do you put that performance in when you're a team that on paper should have been either right there or in the Super Bowl?
That's why people are calling for change.
Yes.
Exactly.
Can't handle the moment.
And Noodles, you said it. It's one thing, too. I'll give them some grace if it was, hey, Jordan Love played really well. Like, I looked at the Lions yesterday. That was an all-hands-on-deck effort. Matt Stafford played incredibly well. But it was like the defense got a couple red zone stops, did everything they could to just force a few field goals. Offensively, they ran the ball well in the first half. They threw the ball well, I thought, for most of the game. Like, everybody contributed. Laporta's got a banged up knee, scores a touchdown.
Right.
Like, that's a playoff performance.
Yeah.
Nobody played well. Maybe Jake Ferguson. I thought he made a couple of good plays. Nobody played well for the Cowboys.
Yeah, it was across the board.
one.
Were they reading their
it was
press
awful.
clippings? Like, did they take Green Bay too lightly, or is it just that they
Dude, that's
choked
what
in
they
the
do
moment?
every year. They do it every year.
It was one of the biggest choke jobs I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's it was unbelievable to watch. Like, and I kept thinking, all right, they're still within striking distance.
Yeah, because the offense.
Anything's possible. The offense is so good. And I was talking with my dad. I'm like, I think the Green Bay needs one more good drive.
Right.
And I wasn't even saying
Put 'em
points.
away.
I was saying just move the chains,
Yeah.
kill some clock, and then it'd be like 4 plays later, they're in the end zone. I'm like, wow, this isn't. They're not even just moving the chains and killing the clock. They are dismantling this team. And LaFleur didn't even have to go that deep into his playbook because, again, we weren't outside of the first drive that was clinical.
Right.
We're talking 4 or 5 play drives, like just bing, bang, boom, end zone.
Smacking them.
It was just
Aaron
wild
Jones,
to watch,
even
man.
I think it was his second touchdown, and Aaron Jones looks incredible.
He is healthy and looking good.
But what was wild to me was like one of the plays. Again, what's strange for me is I know Dan Quinn well, and I know what he preaches and the toughness, and he's a hard-nosed guy. And he's up for head coaching jobs, allegedly. I think that's going to probably suffer after everyone saw that. But it's like Aaron Jones is having walk-in touchdowns. One of them, I think, was from the 7 or the 8. And I'm like, this guy just ran right up the middle, untouched, into the end zone. I mean, it's
Crazy.
ridiculous.
Crazy, man.
It's ridiculous.
Do people
Well-
get fired though? Like, is it you?
Yeah.
Do you
I think so.
realistically think that?
McCarthy's got to be.
Like, do you think
Close,
Jerry
I mean.
Jones goes full sweep here, or just gonna? The worst thing you can do is the day after, a couple days,
Yes.
do it emotionally. But he's going to look at the tape. He's going to look at everything and go, change needs to happen here. Does he not?
I think so, because here's my next thing with the Cowboys, and we love to call the Finns frauds. Everyone knows that except for Al's brother, apparently. But
Who coined that term? RC.
He coined
Yeah.
the term.
Literally.
That is frightening.
yes, but you look at the Cowboys' end of the season stretch.
Right.
They got smoked by the Bills. Now, rain game, sure. They beat the Lions. Shouldn't have happened.
That's
it was
two points.
2-point conversion.
That's in the end zone. That's over.
correct. And it's like, wait a sec. Maybe, they got smoked by the Packers. Like, when you talk about coaches getting fired, I just sit here and I think, hey, if I'm reviewing this team, this roster, this season,
Yeah.
when it mattered the most late in the year, this team was straight up garbage. And they lost to Miami in there. Excuse me.
Right.
So they
Right.
lost to Miami. They got smoked by, this isn't in order, but they got smoked by the Bills, lost to Miami, should have lost to Detroit if it wasn't for a referee mistake. They have one win against the Commanders, and then at home in the playoffs, like you said, 48-16, got like the ending score was not a reflection of
Not
the
even
football
close. LaFleur took his starters out of the game, which was silly because
Like
they
they
put
had
him back in.
game. Some guy named Clifford playing
That
quarterback.
was stupid, man. They got a false start. I'm yelling at the screen. I'm
Clifford, the big red dog.
like, yes,
started
I'm
taking
like, dude, what the hell's going on? Control the line of scrimmage
Contest
here.
winner. He put a contest winner. That's what basically.
But the playoffs are a different beast, and we talk about the Finns are frauds, and they were. Like Tua did exactly what I thought he would do. Ice cold. He goes up there. He can't throw the ball down the field. The one touchdown they had, that's Tyreek Hill in a nutshell. He came back. He fought through a PI and then found a way into the end zone. Tua did nothing the rest of the night. But Mahomes, Andy Reid, Kansas City, is there a chance now that we're into the playoffs? They almost looked at the regular season like we just didn't care. Like, is that possible? Because I thought they looked great the other night.
Yes.
Like, if you're the Bills, if you're Baltimore, are you looking at Kansas City and saying,
they're coming bringing heat.
They're coming. And it's something like Mahomes hasn't been on the road in
Also,
the playoffs.
I just want to put it out. We got the game on right now. This is ridiculous that we weren't allowed to repick this
the
game.
Bills are charging.
There's
man. They
no
look
snow on the ground. It's not even windy. I said on the show it's a weather game.
They look
They moved the
great.
game. Doogie, you gotta come on now. You gotta step in here, Doogie. They moved the game, Doogie.
Doogie, what do you have to say for yourself? Anything? Please enlighten us.
I couldn't predict the snow coming like that, guys, so I guess the line has to stay the same.
Thank you.
It's not the line. We should have been able to repick.
Nah, you still would have taken Pittsburgh. You look at Tom. They have Pittsburgh went, I think, 3 and out. It's all good. It's
Doogie
early.
has no sack whatsoever.
Don't worry about Doogie. Doogie, listen, I saw this stat earlier. Mike Tomlin, since he became the head coach in 2007, the Steelers are 21-9. in games that are played in freezing temperatures. So take that for what it's worth. He's a cold coach.
If he had a mustache, there'd be snot all over it.
Yes.
The governor of New York tried to jam up Team Owen Wilson. That's our greatness right there.
Listen,
that's our greatness.
I don't know what to tell you, man. The Bills win tonight and the Bucs win and cover tonight. You guys are in big trouble.
No, we're down 2.
You're down 2. There's only so many games left. You're into a wild card weekend next week, or not? You're in the divisional weekend.
As long as Al's brother is on your team, you will not win.
The kiss of death.
It is.
What is the? Is it CCC? What is the?
Yeah, so that's
moniker numbers,
charcuterie, cards, cruises. That's a lifestyle. that's a lifestyle.
So disgusting.
That is Al's. Well,
Cards
last week,
and cruises.
last week you may not have been on the show. This is the best. Al's brother said he's going on a cruise during the Pro Bowl, as if he's declining his invitation. Right? It's like, Al's brother, just say it's in February, man. You're not going during the Pro Bowl. It happens to, lap over the Pro Bowl, but you were not invited there. It's 7-0 or 6-0, soon to be 7-0.
I've never seen a
Buffalo
guy have go on that many cruises.
He basically has
I've
to
been
pay
on one
taxes.
in my life.
And what did you think about it? Like, they're okay.
It's a wild scene, isn't it?
Dude, this guy's going to be doing quality video breakdowns for these cruise companies. I guarantee you that's what he's up to. Like buffet breakdowns, gratings, jacuzzis, pool scenes, all of it.
It was good. I'm glad there was a gym because
he's not doing this for nothing. He is up to
go
commercial.
anywhere.
He's doing it for
Oh, dude,
commercial.
he's like Henry Hill and Goodfellas, man. He walks around, he's greasing people. He gets onto a cruise.
He's Henry Hill.
He literally is. Yeah,
best
come through
table,
the
best
kitchen.
table. Come back.
Let me set
Because
you up
honestly,
right here,
you
the
can't
Copacabana.
walk 10 feet in a cruise without having a drink or a bite to eat.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally everywhere.
He's a legend on these cruises.
And like that, apparently, I think the higher you stay, like you don't feel like we were pretty high up.
Yes.
But it was, I don't know. Out of the whole week I was there, we only felt like the water for like 10 minutes. It was moving. Outside of that, it was great. I enjoyed it.
Al's
We did
brother
the
loves
Caribbean one. We flew to Florida and then went down like Bahamas and Cuba. I don't know where we went.
So you guys are telling me that on these cruises, when Al's brother walks around, everyone's kind of whispering like, "There goes Al's
There he
brother."
is.
Yeah.
There he is. He's a legend.
It's like presidential treatment.
I don't know if they're Disney cruises. There's so many cruises.
I hope
like,
not.
I'd love to know his.
No, he's on. I'm guessing it's the bottom of the barrel, and it just basically
It's like a
goes from
wooden
like
boat.
Miami to Havana and back, and that's it. But he's living
Miami,
it, man.
Lauderdale, and back.
Yeah, exactly. Like just a little triangle. It's a wooden boat.
Yeah.
It goes through the causeway up to Lauderdale and then button hooks back to Miami.
He's crushing it, man. That's another C we're going to add. Crushing, clutch, championship. This thing's going to be staggering by the end
I
of it.
can't stand this narrative you've created. It's never been about the playoffs. We'll win still, don't get me wrong. But now all of a sudden, you've created a whole thing that doesn't exist.
We live on a playoff continent. I've always said that. In North America, we care about the playoffs, man. That's what matters. And the Bills, like we just saw that was clinical, man. They just marched down the field.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's 7-0, which means they win the rest of the game by 4. You guys are down big.
Again, we got a backdoor. We'll fight through adversity.
Okay.
That's what we'll
Listen, the Bills have a little
they can
where are
screw things up.
I was going to say the Bills have a little bit of Cowboys in them.
For
do they
sure.
Not?
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
A little bit, but I would think it's safe to say the Bills should win this game.
Absolutely.
Should,
100%.
but we'll see. We'll
Yes.
see.
What about quickly Bucs Eagles? Hurts is injured. He's wearing a glove apparently for the
Dude,
first
I
time
think
in
the
his career.
Eagles crush. Eagles crush.
I can
Hartsey,
see
elaborate.
that. I could picture at the end of the games.
You want to change your pick?
No, I don't.
Al's brother's not here.
I could picture a Bart Scott-esque, like, you doubted us. We'll see you next week in Detroit. Can't wait.
Maybe what you mentioned about KC, Hayes, where it's like regular season, we're just going to turn it on and start dummying people. I think you could see that with Philadelphia today. Partsy, agreed, disagree.
It could happen. It could happen. I'm just the A.J. Brown thing. What happens without him in the offense? In a weird way, does that? And again, they're obviously way better with A.J. Brown. I want to be careful how I phrase this. But mentally, does it help Jalen Hurts where it's like, hey, I don't have that safety blanket of I can just throw a go ball to A.J. Brown. I need to actually play within our system because right now I don't think anyone knows what their system is. Mm-hmm. And maybe this will force him to do that. I don't know. And that's where I go back and forth. And the next thing is you can never underestimate how idiotic Matt Patricia can be. So that's another thing you got to take into effect. I mean, will he come out here and call a normal defense? Maybe. Or will he have Hassan Reddick playing safety today on some sort of weird coverage where he'll look like he's completely a fish out of water.
I don't think the universe can handle the Lions winning and Matt Patricia in the same weekend.
Well, this is what
something's going to give there.
Script writer here. This is why I think the Eagles win tonight.
They go to Detroit.
They go to Detroit. Matt Patricia goes to Detroit. So now Detroit gets to beat Matthew Stafford in the playoffs and then dominate Matt Patricia the next week. The Lions fans feel really great about that situation.
That would be incredible. I could see that Eagles by 2 tonight.
The refs, the fix is in.
All right. We'll see. Doogie, you're a man of integrity. I love it. Bill's up 7 early. Luke, good luck tonight.
Thank you.
There he is. You're welcome. There's Luke Willson. All right. Chris Johnston in about 15 minutes. We're tracking Bills, Steelers, the Pro Athlete Salute. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Chris Johnston coming up in 10 minutes on the Leafs weekend. The Leafs trip now. They're through Western Canada, Edmonton tomorrow night, Calgary Thursday, Vancouver Saturday, Seattle Sunday, and then a home and home with Winnipeg. So a massive 2 weeks coming up for the Leafs. And we'll get into a number of things with CJ, including looking at the Oilers who have won 10 in a row, which is wild that Gretzky, they never won 10 in a row.
Yeah, I thought about
Crazy,
that too.
Man.
Like, how is that possible? They dominated the league for a decade.
I
That
think
guy scored 92 goals in his season and 212 points, and they didn't win more than 10 in a row.
I think they just got complacent.
Possibly.
You hear stories about those. They were young, right? And they were enjoying themselves. The game was different back then.
That's a good point.
I think they just got
The
complacent.
10th win was in Montreal, and they're like, nah,
not
we flew
tonight.
in yesterday.
We're good. We're good.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll make it tomorrow night. We'll see. All right, CJ coming up. We're tracking the Bills and the Steelers, and, of course, the Monday Nighter tonight, Bucks, Eagles. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.